So I'm very honored that I'm allowed to speak here today, and I will like to talk to you in a very practical way how this pressure to end life in an active way is impacting the whole society and obviously palliative medicine and palliative care as well. So I will give you 3 cases as food for thought, and we can sort of reflect what it means and how you can find responses for yourself. So I talked to a colleague about the theme that assisted suicide in euthanasia harms us all, and he said, well, it's very sad that we have to talk about it. It's so evident that it's harming. So today I give you some thoughts and reflections from a palliative care perspective. I work in Cavan in Monaghan, and this is our office of the home care team in Collis in County Cavan. And I would like to start with a quote from Dr. Michael Carney. I think a palliative care doctor you can be proud of. He is Irish, and he is really one of the deep thinkers of profound and holistic palliative care. So he wrote an article in 1992, Palliative Medicine, Just Another Speciality, and I take this quote from him: I no longer subscribe to the view that the suffering associated with the dying process is without meaning or value. While I agree that we have to do all we can to reverse and relieve the suffering, there will be many missed opportunities unless we simultaneously find ways to enable that patient to discover something of immense value, which I believe lies hidden in the depths of that experience. And I will start with the first case where I highlight that. So it is a gentleman, 69 years old. He is an inpatient in the hospital in Cavan, and he was medically referred to specialist palliative care because he developed a treatment-resistant aspiration pneumonia as a consequence of not being able to swallow properly. He was diagnosed with motor neuron disease 7 years ago, and he had a cardiac failure with an ejection fraction of 25%. And his major symptom when he was addressed, or why he was addressed, was cough. So his social history was, he was divorced. He had 5 children, 1 daughter and 1 son care for him. But 3 children are estranged. No support from outside required until hospital admission. So it shows a very resilient family, which you still have in Ireland. So I met him on a Thursday together with the daughter and her husband and the son who cared for him. He has a very low voice, and I have difficulties to understand him, but the daughter helps me to translate it in a more audible way. He's constantly coughing. He's very chesty. His blood pressure is below 100. Patient is very skeptical when he hears palliative care. So I scared him when I met him. He was cared for by his family at home without external input so far for 7 years, beside some equipment support, hospital bed and things like that. But otherwise, the son and the daughter did everything for him. So on this first Thursday, I met with him, and I proposed him some medication to relieve his physical symptom, the cough. So his condition was to accept medication only if I wouldn't sedate him. So I tried to reassure him that I will only use medication that has little sedative effect. So definitely sedation is not the therapeutic aim. I give him a test dose with fentanyl, which is a morphine preparation, which kicks in very quickly, and he tolerated 100 micrograms of it. So he accepts that I can start some regular medication with a syringe driver, and I put in alfentanil IC 2.5 milligram, that is to reduce the cough, and glycopronium and octreotide to reduce the secretions. And then the son and the daughter asked me if they could meet with me separately, and I asked him, is that okay with you? And he said, yes. So obviously they wanted to know about his prognosis. I said, it is very short. And then their question was, do we need to talk to him about dying? And then I said to them, he asked me, will I make it? So I didn't answer the question, but I returned it to him and said, what do you think yourself? He leaves the question unanswered. So my advice to the daughter and the son, listen to him and find out what he wants. He is well aware of his situation because he asked the question and he left the question open. So he didn't want to discuss it because that wasn't an issue. So the next day, on the Friday, we meet again together with the daughter and the son. And to my surprise, there are two new siblings or children, one of the an estranged daughter and estranged son. On the second day we met, he could tell me that he had a second symptom that he didn't mention the first time, pain in his legs whenever he coughs like a lightning. So that is a neuropathic pain in the legs triggered by the cough. Now, cough has not improved. Now, this neuropathic pain in the legs, why does cough cause neuropathic pain in legs? Whenever he coughs, the legs move. What medication could be used that does not sedate? So that is a real problem. I have never seen that before in that extent, but I think it's probably because all his muscles that stabilize the spine had gone, so there was no bumper anymore. And whenever he moved, it was transmitted, the nerves were under pressure. So I was thinking, because he couldn't take anything orally, of one of the newer anti-epileptics that has also relieves nerve pain. It's called lacosamide, and it was introduced in 2008 as an anti-epileptic. I use it sort of off license, and I explain you why I use it. It increases the slow inactivation of voltage-gated sodium channels, a horrible word, but that means the overactive part of the nerve is blocked, but it doesn't interfere with the fast inactivation of the voltage-gated sodium channels, which are responsible for the normal functioning of the brain, meaning the reflection and the attention. So it is the least sedative anti-epileptic that we have. And his wish was not to be sedated. So I met again with the son and the daughter and explained that their pain was triggered by the coughing, and that I increase, because the cough hasn't settled and the secretions, the existing medication in the pump, but I add lacosamide as a fourth medication in the pump to relieve the neuropathic pain in the legs. Again, they wanted to separate the meat with me and ask, and he consented to that. And they asked me, how is he today? So I said, well, the secretions have not improved. We haven't really made progress. Cough and pain is not settled. So from my side, my input wasn't enough. But then I asked, why are the two estranged children now there? And then they told me, he asked us to contact them and to bring them in. So he is completely aware of his dying condition because he is asking specifically for them. So I could reassure them, you don't need to address the dying with him. He is addressing it himself. Listen and follow what he wants. So on the Saturday, this time, all the 5 children were there and the brother. So we adjust the medication. This time we had to separate the medication into 2 drivers for volume reasons. And I increased, because the nerve pain wasn't settled, the different medications, and for the cough and for the secretions. Again, we had a separate meeting, this time only with the caring daughter. And she asked me again, how is he today? So I said, he's still very symptomatic. And how is he getting on with your siblings, with whom you had no contact for at least 7 years? The daughter starts to cry. She is so emotional about her father making peace with his strange children. And I'm amazed how peaceful the atmosphere is. There is no fighting, there is peace. I congratulate her that she is helping her father to achieve something extraordinary. And she answers me and said, but doctor, I haven't done anything special. I said, but you see something, the very simple things are very special. Then on the Sunday, that was our last meeting, the whole family was there. The cough is settled. The pain in the legs is gone. The secretions are still audible, but he is not stressed anymore. He is smiling and at peace. He has invited the whole extended family. There were about 20 people around. There is a joyous atmosphere. There was even a baby coming in, which normally is not allowed, especially as he was in the 6-bedded ward. And again, I met with the caring daughter and the caring son. And then again, the question, how is he? And I said, well, he's definitely getting weaker. Time is probably short now. You have achieved what is important and meaningful for him. I think he can go now in peace. They are both in tears. There is no need to change medication that day. And on Monday, he dies peacefully at 6:45 in the morning in the presence of a large number of family members. He had 2 syringe drivers, I just repeated, that is very medical. So what is the conclusion? This case shows that there are 2 different levels of experience for the dying man. The conscious and the unconscious, the visible and the invisible, the tangible and the untangible, the outer and the inner, and the surface and the depth, deep. Now, it was important on the surface to relieve his physical symptoms and anxiety without sedating him. So he could access a deeper level and fully use and nurture his resilience. This allowed him to find healing and transform his suffering into meaning and bring peace to his family. For the patient, he died in a 6-bedded ward. Physical symptoms and anxiety were settled. He made peace with his family in a very short time. He left a highly spiritual message to all involved. What it meant for me, he clearly expressed that he did not want to be sedated. Symptom management was challenging. I managed a trustful relationship with the patient. He amazed me by his powerful message of peace he made with his family. There was no need to talk openly about the dying, but important to listen to his wish to live life to the fullest. And we have adopted for our service a little sticker of this Irish life tree, because, as I told you, he was afraid when he heard palliative care. And I said, you see, palliative care is about living while accepting the dying, but it's not to provoke the dying. So this is a first case, a positive case about holistic palliative care, how it should be, ideally. Now, in the second case, and you can see the little thistles, it's getting a little bit more thorny. It's a gentleman of 75 years. He is at home. He was medically referred to specialist palliative care because he had severe cardiac arrhythmias, for which he had an implantable cardiac defibrillator. And this machine fired so frequently that it destroyed the heart, and he went into end-stage heart failure. So there were months-long discussions with the cardiology team and the medical team about deactivating the ICD. Finally, he struggled to take the decision, and then when he took the decision, he expected to die quickly. Switch off and go. But it didn't go this way. So at that stage, his major complaint was fatigue, no appetite, tachycardia, and as he told me, "Doctor, I have no life." So what was his social history? He was married. He had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. Well-minded by his loving wife. And I invited him for a first outpatient clinic on a Wednesday. And he was so angry. And he told me, "Doctor, I have no life. Why did I not die after the ICD was deactivated 1 month ago? Could you pay me a trip to Switzerland to get physician-assisted suicide?" And I said I could, but I wouldn't. And then answer immediately, "That's not fair, doctor. You have no problem that I continue to suffer terribly." Well, I didn't answer him yes, but I approached him and I said to him, I explained to him the reality of the defibrillator. So I explained to him the purpose of the ICD was the severe cardiac arrhythmias. And because it fired so frequently, he went into cardiac failure, which was his main symptom-causing problem. So first thing is, we could stop the antiarrhythmic medication. And his answer immediately, "Oh no, doctor, the medication are helping me." I said, "But you want to die." "Oh, you know, but not with arrhythmias." And then my wife adjusts the beta blocker very well. She knows when to increase it, when to decrease it. So then I said, I could offer you a course of acupuncture. And he was absolutely bewildered. Why acupuncture? And I explained him, you know, you have such a high potential of aggressive energy. You know, I asked him, do you love your wife? And he, I said, well, and she's really caring for you, and she doesn't deserve this aggression from your side. So I try to canalize this aggressive energy to transform it and find some inner healing. He was thinking I was completely mad. And he was extremely skeptical. And then the wife was soothing him and said, well, try it. You have nothing to lose. So he accepted it. And to our amazement, he reacted in the most impressive way and relaxed well and fell asleep. And when I woke him, said, oh, is it over already? I'm in heaven now. And said, no, nearly, but not yet. But you could come back next week and we could repeat the experience. Okay, so he came back the next week. He's still very angry, this time because it's getting weaker. And this time he came in a wheelchair and he said, you know, I don't like that. I was always active and now I have to be wheeled around. So, and then he told me during the weekend he felt unwell because he became tachycardic, which caused him nausea and vomiting. But the wife adjusted the medication and it improved. So he went for the second acupuncture and he told me he will come back the next week. But Mother Nature decided differently. He dies on the following Monday evening. He had a good day. His wife gave him his evening medication at 10 o'clock. He went to bed, and when she came back at 11, he had died peacefully in his sleep. So conclusions for the patient. You can see the ambivalence. And I think that is very important. He wanted to get out of the situation, but we had to negotiate how. He died peacefully at home, which was more than I expected. We have patients who die angry. His physical symptoms, we didn't really manage completely. We have to accept our helplessness and to deal with that. He managed to transform his anger in inner peace. Thus, he could allow his dying to happen without controlling it. I hear that very frequently from people who want to die. I have to explain, the dying is a very active process, but it's not in forcing it that it will happen, but in allowing it. You have to open to something that you can't control, and then beautiful things can happen. So this is the second case where I had a clear request for physician-assisted suicide. Now let's come to the last case, number 3. This is a 55-year-old lady. She's an inpatient. She was medically referred to specialist palliative care because she had the metastatic sigmoid bowel cancer, now end stage after 4 years of disease with extensive liver metastases, which was causing encephalopathy, so confusion by malfunctioning of the liver. She was admitted for the last months because of increasing symptoms. Her major symptoms were total pain, nausea, vomiting, and constipation. So, social history, she was divorced. She had 2 daughters in their late teens, early 20s. She herself was a nurse. She was divorced from her husband, who was a farmer. Her mother at 83 was still alive, and she had 2 sisters and 3 brothers. One of them lived in America, or lives in America. So for the total pain, we had, besides the medication she got, many meetings with family members. First, she wanted to associate her sister, then she wanted to have her daughters brought in, then she wanted her ex-husband to come in. She made peace with him, and she handed the 2 girls over to him. And then in the end, we met the other siblings. We involved also our social worker, and we had an intense input from the chaplain. And there were many friends who were supporting her because she was a nurse in the hospital, so she had a lot of nursing friends from the hospital. So initially she was able to take her medication orally, but then she became unable to swallow the tablets, so we switched part of it to a continuous infusion. And for the last 5 days, her medication was stable. She was on a fentanyl patch, 100 microgram per hour, and on a syringe driver with alfentanil and opioid, midazolam for her anxiety, haloperidol and olanzapine for her encephalopathy and her nausea. For the last 5 days, she's mostly asleep. She has only short periods when she wakes up. She looks angelic in the bed. She looks very settled. And what impressed me, she never became chesty because she had no, what we call, death rattles in the end. So the breathing was regular, without secretions. And then 5 days before she dies, peacefully, her brother, who lives in America, arrives with his wife from New York. And he is absolutely shocked to see his dying sister. And he demands to increase the medication in the syringe driver to finish the unbearable suffering, to practice euthanasia. She dies 5 days later on a Wednesday morning, very quietly, on her own, in hospital. The first person who arrives after she has died is her divorced husband. And then I'll finish this little story with a little poem read by a friend on her funeral. Letter from heaven read by a good friend. To my dearest family, some things I'd like to say. But first of all, to let you know that I arrived okay. And when you are walking down the street and you've got me on your mind, I am walking in your footsteps just half a step behind. And when you feel that gentle breeze or the wind upon your face, that's me giving you a great big hug or just a soft embrace. And when it's time for you to go, from that body to be free, remember that you are not going, you are coming home to me. And I will always love you from that land way above. So this third case is a request of euthanasia, which I resisted. I didn't practice it because there was no need to do it. But this brother couldn't see that she was at peace. And she really looked angelic. The third thing is he deprived her of the presence of her family. Now, what are the challenges for palliative care? Good symptom management can prolong the dying journey. Palliative care is more than symptom management. Healing and transformation is a process that takes time. And time is not measured in a space. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes, sometimes it takes a month. To fix and control everything is not real, but modern society is assuming it is an option. Resist the different pressures, and they come, I haven't named them all. We have limited resources, we have staffing shortages, we have increasing regulations, we have higher demands from patients, we have higher demands from families, higher demands from employers. And it is extremely exhausting and time-consuming to do this beside the real work that is relevant for the patient. To be present and lean into the suffering is a lifelong learning process. You have here in Ireland the Celtic Anam Cara experience. It supposed 30 years of training. And we trained young doctors and nurses to do that. I think that can't work. On the continent, the approach is different. You can only do palliative care if you have finished a specialty that is patient-centered. So you have more medical experience and you have more life experience. To improve our skills to nurture resilience. And I think that is really the only option for the future, because we will have less staff, but we have the huge capacity of each person to deal in difficult situations and nurture resilience. I think a fantastic example is Victor, the Austrian neurologist, Frankl, who managed in the concentration camp to bring joy and healing to people who were murdered, who had to die without consent. And you have a similar doctor in France, Boris Cyrulnik, also a Jew of Ukrainian origin, who was nearly killed by the Nazis, but he lost all his family. And interestingly, for him, the time after the war was more difficult, because during the war he was protected by nuns, but after the war he was an orphan, but he couldn't prove that he was an orphan, because his parents had died in Auschwitz with no death certificate. So the most difficult time was the normal time after that. And to help to find meaning in the suffering. And I think that is, as I mentioned, a lifelong process. And each of us has to do this journey. Nobody can do that in the place of somebody else. And it's different for each person. And there is no life without suffering. And for that reason, I show you, to finish this little talk, an Irish tree of life that was offered me by a patient who was very skeptical. And when I gave her the little sticker, the next time we met, she brought in this lovely picture to thank me for that. And I know I haven't given you all the answers, but I hope we have food for thought, and we can discuss it at the end of this meeting this morning. Thank you very much.